EMS. There you go. I am Charles McFall, the media specialist here at Georgia Institute of EMS. And of course, as this goes, it is Facebook. I have to be able to talk back to you. So I am trying to pull up the video right now on my phone. Is this it? It looks like it might be it, possibly. Looks like it's live. All right. Yeah, there it is. So if you've got some comments, some questions, today we're going to be talking about behavior, both in real life public and in social media, and how it may or may not affect your employment. So, you know how I say, right? I go, hey, new medium, new everything. Get those likes up, get those hearts out. Let's do a good thing here. So I can take your comments, I can take your questions. So I've got my phone set now to see what it is that you have to say. And I definitely appreciate that. So we see in the celebrity world, we see in the sports world and in different companies, when somebody does something outrageous in public, they could lose some income, right? There could be consequences. And I'm in a little bit of a rush today, so I didn't get everything quite fixed. So you're going to see a little adjustment here. It's still kind of wonky, but it's whatever. I'm going to leave it alone now. Anyway, where's the responsibility? Where's the freedom to be you? These are lines I'm asking about drawing in the sand, right? Where's the freedom to choose to be who you are, to have the freedom of speech, to say what it is you say, and yet have a company fire you, have a company take away your ability to say things, to lose contracts. To use an example without becoming political, right? Because this is all about EMS and us and how you stay sane and how you stay healthy in the field and learn the things you don't get to learn in class. So this is a political reference without trying to start a political argument. And if you do jump in and start doing political arguments, we're probably going to kick you off the chat because this is, please, just let me make my example. But we see Donald Trump, right? Because of who he is, what he represents, whatever the reasons are, Nordstrom's dropped his daughter's line of clothing. Okay, they have the right to pick up and drop anybody they want, and it does seem to be not because of her and her actions, but because of her father's actions. You see, back a number of years ago, when Japan had the tsunami hit, right? Gilbert Gottfried was the voice of the duck for Aflac. And Gilbert Gottfried makes insensitive jokes. I mean, that's been his whole style, his entire career. Now, he makes these jokes at the expense of others, but for Aflac, he was the voice of the duck. That's what they hired him for, even though they knew who he was. Well, he made the insensitive joke on Twitter right after the tsunami, when there's still floods and death and things going on. And something along the lines of, well, I'll just leave it there. He made an insensitive joke. And it was too soon. Well, what happened was Affleck fired him. Affleck terminated his contract immediately because a lot of these contracts, especially with celebrities, especially with brands, will have that clause of moral turpitude, for lack of other cheesy word, right? It'll be the if you do something that we feel is harmful to our brand by your actions, your lack of morality, your speech, your whatever, we have the right to terminate your contract. And that always begs the question, in other areas of life, how does that affect us as everyday people, right? Words mean things. Actions have consequences, especially in EMS, right? I was going, so, okay. I went through a phase where I was trying to get a grip on my life. I came out of my parents' home. I wasn't quite living on my own yet, but I was kind of halfway housing it. They had a garage that was an apartment, and I was renting the apartment from them. It's still attached to my parents' home, and they took care of most of the bills, those kind of things. So I'm still I'm young. I'm 18, right? 19 years old. And I guess I was a little older than that. It's probably 21, 22, something like that. Still young, right? Young. And trying to get a grab or a grasp or a hold on who I am, who I want to be, what goes on. And I had these blue glasses. And they were just tinted blue. They're like driving glasses. Driving glasses are tinted yellow. I think hunting glasses are also tinted yellow. You could have different spectrums. But I had these blue glasses. They looked really good on me. They literally matched the color of the uniform I wore, so it looked really good. And I wore them mostly all the time. Now, if it was on a serious call, I would absolutely take them off. If we're in the back of the truck, because at that point, I'm just focusing on getting my job done. But for the most part, day or night, I'd wear them because they actually did filter light fairly well. And everything had a blue tint to it, but I could see a little bit clearer at night. It filtered out certain light bands or whatever. Well, there were people who didn't like me who mocked it all the time, who picked on me. But this one captain I wore them to paramedic class. Now here was my stance. I leave my job. I'm on my own. This is pre-social media, right? This is before Twitter became a big thing, before Facebook became a big thing. This is basically, for lack of a better word, rumor mill, right? This is the good old boy system. The only way that you're going to hear that I did something that you didn't agree with or you disagree with was if some buddy of yours happens to know a bunch of things. You have to know that I'm an employee of that company. You have to know who I am. And then you have to disagree with what I'm doing to then be a little B word to call my boss or whoever and say, do you know what your employee's doing? So those things lined up. Now I would leave shift or I'd go from home if I'm on the day off, go to paramedic class. And I wore the glasses inside buildings, everything. They were just blue tinted glasses. You could see my eyes. Nothing was hidden. I could see you. I just liked them. It helped me in my mental state where I was as an EMT, struggling to figure out who I was, trying to transition that gap to become a full-fledged adult living on my own, right? Figuring out life. I have no recall if I was dating my wife at the time or not, because that was the same time period that I met my wife at the hospital and started dating her. But the point is, I think I left shift one night. I was still on shift. Somebody came and relieved me for a few hours so I could go to class. Went to class in uniform, wore my glasses, and yeah, people thought it was stupid. I didn't care if some people thought it was stupid. Some people thought it was cool. My partner understood the two reasons I was doing it. One, actually did see better. I mean, he looked at him. He checked him out himself. He was a captain. He looked at him himself and had no problems with him. And I knew there were people who wouldn't get it and would mock me. It's not who cares? So I wear them to class, come back to the station, and I think it was that night or the next shift. It was very quickly after this. I think she was a commander, actually. This higher ranking officer in our group. She hated me from day one. She never liked me. We never got along. And I mean, that's not true. We could get along. We could eat dinner together as a crew. I could work on her shift. I could work on her truck without causing problems. It wasn't like that, because I have to really watch my words, because I do know in EMS there are definitely some major personality clashes that they can never be on the same shift. There is absolutely no way you're going to schedule those two people to work together on a truck. And that's a whole different topic to talk about at some point. But right now I'm talking about personal responsibility and how your actions can reflect on your job, whether it's at your job or not. Now at my job, 100% professional, right? I did everything professional. I handled my business the way I should have, those kind of things. But anyway, she, again, I don't remember if it was that night or not, but basically some little rat, some little weak ass little B word at school didn't like what I was doing because I was wearing glasses inside. Just a sorry excuse for a human being. Ended up somehow knowing her, so basically called her and told her directly, not my boss, not my actual boss, her, who was not my boss, called her and said, oh, you know what your employee's doing? He looks so stupid. He's representing. So she decided to try to call me to task with my captain partner beside me. And I stood up for myself. But she tried to say, my actions on my own time even represent the company, and I have to do. Well, the company, like every company, they definitely had a morals clause, I believe, they had a behavior clause that says if you go and do something reprehensible, right, we have the right to terminate you because it can reflect poorly on the company, but not just reflect poorly. It can cost us money. And if your action costs us money, again, the bosses who are actually responsible for that didn't care. They didn't ever bring it up with me. So she brings it up about how my actions off the clock are important. And so I looked at her and said, so you're telling me you put your makeup on that takes like 2 hours. And I mean, I'm mocking her, right? Because I'm doing what I do best. I broke her down like a shotgun. I was like, so this hair that takes you an hour to fix before you even come to work in the morning and all this makeup. And you do that every time you want to run down, because I knew where she lived. I knew where this video store was. So it's like a block away from her house. Every time you want to run to the corner store to get cigarettes, you do up all your makeup. You make sure you have, well, no, sometimes I wear sweatpants. Yeah. So you look like, I called her an S word. I've agreed. See, I've agreed for the sake of the school to keep my swearing to a minimum. But you should know I definitely swear and use foul language sometimes. But I said, so you look like crap, but not crap. You look like crap. That reflects on our company. But that's different. No, it's not different. You're talking about my time, how I dress on my time, and how I act on my time. And she ended up dropping it because in that particular case, I was right. But where's the line drawn? And that's what you have to figure out when you work with a company. Now we have social media. Now we have this dangerous form of communication. It's like a gun. It's like a car. Cars, motor vehicle accidents, situations involving vehicles seriously kill and maim people all the time. I know I drive into Atlanta a lot, so I see the billboards, the DOT signs that tells you how many fatalities have been on the roads in Georgia and those kind of things. And we're not even mid-February, and at the time I saw it the other day, the fatalities are up to 118 fatalities. That's not counting injuries. That's not counting. I believe that probably fails to take into account anything other than interstates. I believe that's just interstate stats. I may be incorrect on that. Cars are very dangerous because they can destroy property. They can kill people easily, but if you learn how to use it correctly, you do very well. I mean, it comes second nature. Some people go on to be stunt drivers, to be very, very good drivers, those kind of things. There's definitely varying degrees of drivership. Guns, same way. All gun activists, gun lovers will say, guns don't kill people, people kill people. That's true. But just like a car, accidents happen, murders happen. Right. Guns are dangerous by nature because of what they can do. Social media to me, and I live on social media. I put a lot of stuff out, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that jazz. It's like a gun. Accidents can happen, but here's what makes it worse to me. What makes it worse to me is for some unknown reason, and I've never known this, and I've cut my teeth on social media as it was developed. I've cut my teeth on the internet as it's developed. I'm that age that everything came at the right time, so I'm working with it, learning it, seeing it develop, moving forward, those kind of things. But people who don't consider their actions, or some now, the next generation of my children are learning the safety of the internet very slowly. But those who are in college now, young adults, old adults really even, have no concept of how dangerous social media and Twitter can be. And they feel like they can just say anything. So the question today is, do you have the freedom to say whatever you think on social media and still have the right to keep your job? And where does that line drawn? And I think that would be a debate for many times to come, but I'm going to try to tackle that as best I can right now. People, for some reason, think social media and Twitter is reality, but it's not reality. And here's the example I give. You would never come to an office, to my office, and say ugly, racist, angry things to me and scream at the top of your lungs in my office. You more than likely, statistically, because we see it all the time. You'll see Grandma Rose, who's sweet as can be, get on there and say the ugliest thing on Facebook and just post it or share ugly posts. But Grandma Rose won't go to a church and out front of a church say those things loudly in public for everybody to hear her. You won't go, more than likely won't go to the grocery store and say these things. But on Facebook, you'll share the dumbest, slanderous thing that makes you look stupid. God, I hate those posts on Facebook and Twitter of, oh, I just want to know how many of my friends can share. No, unfriend instantly. Because you're losing connection with reality. Reality is there are levels of connections in this world. Absolutely. There are coworkers. There are true friends. There are close friends. There are best friends. There are socializing friends. There are people you're acquainted with. There's family. There's people you've never met before that you're closer to than somebody you hang out with. Yes, all this is true. But with followers and with random connections, I mean, who here hasn't, if you play a Facebook game, who here hasn't friended a stranger just to have somebody help them out on the game? You don't know the person. You don't interact with the person. You don't do anything. These are not real friends. And somehow, Facebook and Twitter have become this sounding board that people can just say whatever they want, and there's no consequences. At least they think there's no consequences. But I've watched some people who built their career on the internet, and this is still coming right back around to EMS and that kind of thing. But I've watched people build their career on the internet who will then turn around and be very, very polarizing in their political beliefs. Not necessarily incorrect. Definitely this one I'm thinking of, non-racist, non-ugly, but very much picked a side. And I went, I'm interested to see how this plays out, because people who can be your clients are looking at your stuff on Facebook. That's a standard. If I'm mistaken, please let me know. Share the comments here. Put it in the Facebook post. But I believe it's fairly standard when somebody's going through a background check for their employer or probably an HR person to Google them, to look at your Facebook profile, to look at your Twitter profile, to find what videos you've posted up on YouTube. Now, I have zero fear of things living forever, and just because you do something young and dumb when you're 18 on spring break, that should never haunt you the rest of your life. And if it does, it's stupid that some employer goes, oh, you're 30 years old and I'm looking to hire you. Oh, but when you're 18, you did this girl's going, what? Who cares? That was 18. I'm 30. Shut up. So, but what does happen is you show who you are, because there's this weird sense of freedom that comes with social media that goes, I could just say whatever thoughts on my mind right now. How will that affect your employment? How will that affect your patient care? How will that affect you getting a promotion, getting what you want out of life? And it could very much do that. And whose responsibility is it? Well, in the case of Gilbert Godfrey, where he told the insensitive joke, right? And I'm noticing my CPU is going crazy right now. I'm going to try to shut a thing down to chill that out. But Gilbert Godfrey told the joke, right? Well, instantly, I mean, the world knew he was the voice of Aflac. The world knew who saw his tweet. It blew up in the press and stuff. And Aflac immediately, who wanted to at least be perceived, if not be seen as somebody who cares for the world and cares for people who are in trouble. And it was very insensitive to tell that joke at that time. It was very much his style, and I was not shocked by it at all. But they hurt the brand, and so they let him go. Are you on that level? Well, probably not. Probably not if you're watching this video right now, learning about EMS and wanting to get into the field. Any questions you have, hit me. But this is what's on my mind right now, so I'm going to talk about how social media will affect your career and affect your life if used incorrectly. So, case in point, there's always been. I live in the South. I mean, this is a Georgia Institute of EMS. I've been in Georgia most of my life. I've been around good old boys. I've definitely been around some racists. I've definitely been around some very understanding people who accept the world, people who love the world. So I'm talking specifics here, non-stereotypes. I'm talking specifics here. But I've definitely grown up hearing the phrase around, well, you come to America, by God, you speak the language. That's something that I've heard. It's not something I believe in. I do believe if you go to a country, do your best to integrate, right? If I'm going to China, I'm going to do my best to learn basic Chinese so I can function. If I'm going there to work, I'm going to do my best to learn as much work-related language as I can for whatever country I'm in, because that's on you. That's your responsibility. So yes, if you come to America, if you really want to be here, it would behoove you to learn the language. But do you have to? No. But here's the other thing too. Little side random tangent here, but this is something that irritates me. Most of the world speaks more than one language. Most of the world speaks at least their country's language and English. So for an American to sit here and go, learn the language, you're ignorant and shut up. You know one language and you don't even speak it that well. All right, rant over. But we saw with the Super Bowl. I saw this a year ago, actually. I'm not sure if it happened this year or if somebody's pulling up old data, but I did see a Super Bowl ad, I believe it was a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, with Coca-Cola singing God Bless USA or something like that. But it was different cultures in America singing it in their language, right? So you had Ethiopian, you had Spanish, you had German, I think. You had, of course, you had American in there. You had English. It's not American, it's English, by the way. You had these people singing in there. And the idea was we bring the world together, right? We are all Americans. Even if we don't all speak the same language, we live here, we're born here, or we have citizenship here, whatever it is. And I see the reactions to it of the country's anthem should only be sung in that language. I'm like, how ignorant are you? So let's use this. Let's use that example. Okay, so you're working for an ambulance company. You're working for an ambulance company that services a multicultural area, say Gwinnett Fire, which has at least 3 major cultures in it. Of course, it has the American culture. It has a huge Vietnamese culture in Gwinnett. It has a huge Mexican culture in Gwinnett. And there might be others. So you're servicing a huge multicultural area. And you get on Facebook, because it's your profile and it's your freedom of speech and there's no ramifications to social media. And you get on there. And maybe your profile picture is of you in your fire uniform or your EMS uniform. Or maybe you just have listed works at Gwinnett Fire. And you get on and go, oh my God, I can't believe what Coca-Cola did. The American anthem, because I don't remember what song it was, God Bless USA or America the Beautiful. But, the American song should only be sung in English. I will never drink Coca. Racist, ignorant, but you have a right to that. However, do you have a right to your job after that? Now, this is where it's very theoretical, very hypothetical. I have no affiliation with Gwinnett Fire. I barely know anybody actually even works there. This is just a hypothetical situation. So most big departments have somebody who looks at social media in an HR department. And so the HR department, let's say they come in on Monday after the Super Bowl, and maybe you're drunk, maybe you just had a moment, but you spewed this America for Americans saying. Okay, and that's your right. Understand, I am differentiating between your right to your beliefs, your right to freedom of speech, and do you have a right to a job? Maybe you don't. And actually, no, in Georgia you don't. It's a right to hire, right to fire state. Right to work is the term. Whereas, unless it's changed, the way it's explained to me was in Georgia, I can quit a job without reason, and it's fine. They can fire me without reason, and mostly it's fine. Now, there's precedent. Now, understand I'm not HR, and I understand I do fully understand there are layers and more complexity than what I just explained. But basically, you do need a reason, and it does help for the courts to have precedent. And the way I have an earring, you can't quite see it, but I do have an earring here. And the way it's explained to me is, if the company decided to fire me today for having an earring, tomorrow they can't hire somebody who had an earring, and then they can't let anybody who had an earring continue to work. You either have to take the earring out, or they have to fire you. It's a precedent that gets set. So Georgia's a right to work state. So you have no right to have your job. So you get on Super Bowl Sunday and you America for American up your Twitter or your Facebook post, right? And then HR gets on Monday morning and just does a search for employees or however they look at it, and they go, "Oh, here's Sam Smith. And he's one of our employees. And look, he talks about running this call on Gwinnett Fire. He talks about being proud of his fire truck. He talks about being hired. Oh, what's this? Wait a minute now. He said something out of hand about how foreigners should go back home, or how you should only speak English in this country." And it's a very polarizing statement, whether it be offensive to you or not. It's very polarizing. And HR goes, "That's against our policy." Now Sam is in the conundrum of, in the office, losing his job. But doesn't he have freedom of speech? Yeah, you do. You absolutely have every right to say that. You have every right to be an idiot and put it out on Facebook if you want. Because here's the thing. The world can see Facebook. And people are sneaky. Even if you have a private profile, I have heard, never experienced, but I could definitely see the possibility. I have heard of companies making fake profiles. What? They can make a fake profile? Yeah, and they can friend you. And now they're inside of your barrier. And now you have somebody who's a friend who actually is working for the company you work for, who is monitoring, to a sense, of what you're saying. Does it happen a lot? Who knows? But it absolutely happens. Even if it doesn't happen that way, your friends can quote you. Your friends can say you said it. I mean, there's ways to find out, man. It's crazy. So a company like Gwinnett Fire can have a morals, something turpitude. They can have a morals clause that says anything that you do that they disagree with, that hurt, but it can't be just a disagree with it, but that hurts your standing in the community, that hurts the brand of the company, if you will. They can fire you for that. I mean, that could be, if you get caught cheating and it becomes a big public event, they can fire you for that, more than likely. If again, the fake Sam Smith, Gwinnett Fire posts, America for Americans, everybody else should get out, and English is the only language, and never sing that song in another, screw you, Coke. I picked Gwinnett because it has a huge multicultural area that is being serviced. I mean, huge by population, huge by variation of cultures, you name it, it's there. And as EMS, we're talking about on paper, we're talking about in a sterile environment. As EMS, do we truly want anybody we go to help thinking that we're not there to help them? I would dare say no. Do we want the community leaders for those cultures? I'll speak right soon. Do we want community leaders for those cultures rising up and saying this person hates us, and we need to do something about that? Meaning, putting political pressure on the department to do something about it. The question becomes, when does my statement become, or in this case, okay, I work for Georgia Institute of EMS. When does my statement become the school statement? Well, easy enough. Anytime I have this shirt on and this this patch on, I'm representing the school as a personality. Now, I do a lot of other things. I've used Gilbert Gottfried a few times, but in a sense, I have a personality that is my moneymaker. I don't put on a fake personality, but I mean, I have a style of humor, a style of edginess, a style of saying things bluntly. That I'm very clear on this show and I'm very clear in this shirt to say, oh no, who I am is not the person who says, God bless you, and oh crap. I am agreeing to turn down the volume on who I am to get a message across for the school. It's a role that I've accepted. It's a role that I'm invested in. However, I'm very clear on who I am should never shock you. Who I am is the person who says things that other people think but won't say. Who I am is the person who is also cautious about the audience that he's speaking to. And that's the other thing on social media. You can never know who you're speaking to. So yes, speak for yourself. Yes, speak your mind. But you honestly never know who you're speaking to. But the responsibility lies with you. Know that the words that come out of your mouth can cost you your job. How many times have we seen teacher scandals where a teacher posts up? I mean, this one pissed me off. Okay, so a younger, beautiful woman was a teacher of a school, and we know as Americans, if you don't know, you should know. We know that in America, teaching salaries are fairly low. It's a tough road to go down. They can get better if you do certain education or you get in certain schools or whatever, but they're low. I want to say the first teacher salary, I personally knew the teacher, and as an adult, I knew the teacher and I knew what she made. It was like $16,000 a year to teach kids in this private school that I was working in as a janitor. And I was the head of the janitors, whatever, but I was the janitor, and every once in a while we'd bring in some contractors and I would supervise them. But at that time, I was the one person more or less to keep the stuff going. And I was making almost $20,000 a year. So I was making almost $4,000 more a year than she was. And she had to have an education to get her job. She was responsible for teaching preteens or young teens at that time. And she was making $16,000. I was making $19,000. So that's teachers don't get paid much. So this teacher had a side job where basically she posed for calendars. And it was as separated as she could get. It was as different. She used a model type name, right, instead of her real name. She tried to do it in areas that would never cross with the school. But she made extra income, and she did it in a way that she felt was appropriate. As far as I know, she wasn't naked, but there was some lingerie. There was some sexiness to it, for sure. Sex sells. I mean, what are you going to do? And so, but the internet will find out, right? People find out. And somehow somebody found out about it. And here's the thing. Here's what you have to understand. Being an EMS, being a public figure, because that's what you are, you're a target of hate at times because reasons. I don't know. But putting on a badge, the EMS badge, police officer badge, firefighter badge, be it a patch, be it an actual badge, whatever, putting on the uniform, representing the establishment, being part of public safety, you can be loved and you can also be hated. You're definitely a target. And it doesn't matter that you come in as the nicest person in the world wanting to help everybody. If somebody before came in and said racist things, it's the uniform. And you will always find somebody who was out to get you or is out to watch the world burn, just even watch your world burn. And this teacher, who, in my opinion, did nothing wrong, and what I believe is a standard school, not a Christian school. Because Christian schools can have very tight rules, very fundamental rules. Anyway, somebody found out she basically did calendars on the side to supplement her income. Instead of keeping it to themselves, because it's none of their business, they went and ratted her out. They went and made sure her supervisors knew about it and made it a scandal. The way the supervisors reacted made it a scandal. There was no scandal. There was no scandal. Ultimately, I don't know what happened. I have no idea if she got fired. I have no idea if she quit, but I do know it got blown up big enough to hit the news. And if it blew up big enough to hit the news, that means parents are going to give you grief. Your supervisor is going to give you grief. Here's the thing. You have a freedom to say whatever you want. You have a freedom. It's your Facebook page. It's your Twitter page. You can post whatever you want. You can go onto somebody else's post and say ugly things, say racist things, say religious things, say political things, whatever you want. You absolutely have that right. But understand, people will come after you and they will try to ruin your life. They can try. I mean, so let's bring it back to EMS. Does what you say affect your job and how you do it? It depends on what you believe in your heart. And it depends on how you can get past that. So a situation has arisen recently where somebody said some things about foreigners and blah, 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 blah. And somebody else tried to damage them by spreading it around and reporting it and whatever. I have no idea about any of it. But the question was asked. And it's a decent question. It's the question I'm asking now. What kind of care will this person give if this is how they speak in public? Fair enough. We have no answer for that. What I can teach you today, what I can share with you right now in the EMS Underground, in the area of learning that you don't get in the books, is people will see what they want to see. People will hear what they want to hear. You could try to speak perfectly every single time. People will hate on you. However, if you build your character, if you live in who you are, if you show who you are as much as possible, and I got a story for this, if you show who you are as much as possible, nobody will believe the rumors if they're wrong. If they're right, you might end up in a place you don't want to be. Maybe your goal is to be a fire chief at Gwinnett Fire or DeKalb Fire or Atlanta Fire. You have a big, high-profile department. Maybe that was your goal. Maybe your goal was to be the best firefighter in the world and, do like your dad did and his dad did before him and your uncles, blah, blah, and just go through the ranks because that's your passion, that's your heart. But if you get on Facebook and Twitter and you say whatever it is you say, and you mean it, and that's the flip side to that question, what kind of care will this person give if this is how they speak in public? If you believe skin color matters, it can affect your care. Does that mean you can't do it? Of course not. There are many, many racists who would never socialize with the ethnicity that they hate. But they'll get on the truck and they'll do their job. And they'll do it to the best of their ability. If you believe sexual orientation matters, will that affect your job? I'm using the word believe, because what you believe is where you act out of. It absolutely could. However, I know there's many, many people who, if you're gay, there's a good chance you really dislike religious people. If you're straight and religious, there's a good chance, statistically, there's a chance you really hate homosexual people. However, I've seen both sides of it, where gay people have absolutely did their job as professionally, as nicely as they could, to the opposite, to the people who hate them. And I've seen religious people absolutely help the people that they pray for or that they believe are sinners, but they get on the truck and they do their job. There are people who do things that I don't understand, that some of their actions, some of the way they are, were reprehensible to me morally. I'm like, I can't believe you talk like that. You bother me when you talk like that. I can't believe you treat your family like that. I disagree with your life, but I saw them get on a truck and do a really good job. I've worked with those people, and they can do their jobs. Here's what the public doesn't understand. And here's what you have to get a grasp on when you run your mouth in public. When you just say what I believe, because this is what I believe, and I have a right to say it. Sure you do. But that's all they're going to see you for. And in the wrong situations, it doesn't take much for the dominoes to fall, for you to lose your job, for you to be demoted, for you to be labeled the problem child to be dealt with, for you to, instead of going on to the higher levels of chiefdom that you want, to then be in a second tier service. Because they don't care. They'll take warm bodies. So my stories on these are I talked about living in your character, living who you are. That was something I understood pretty early on as an EMT. Was I didn't hide anything. I talked about everything. It's become my brand now, 20-something years later. It's become my brand of, I talk about my life. You know who I am. Even if you only get a few minutes here on the show, what you see is what you get. You can go to charlesmcfall.com. You can go to rockgodofpodcasting.com. You can see the shows I do. I hide nothing. And I grasped that early on in my life of being open like that. So as an EMT, yeah, I made mistakes, but my thing with making mistakes, and again, for those of you watching live, you can write a comment. You can ask a question. I will tackle whatever you want. I'm just on this idea of social media, how it can affect your life, and how the public perceives us on the truck, right? So as an EMT, I made mistakes. And if I made a mistake, I would go to my supervisor before the mistake came out and said, I made this mistake. Or if I didn't realize I made a mistake and they came to me, I would own it. I said, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm learning. And I showed through years of just doing that in the same service that I never thought I was the hottest thing to hit medicine, that I do know what I'm doing, because call after call, running support for a team or being the lead medic on the call, whatever, I would show my own, my abilities and that. So I showed who I was, is what I'm saying. At one point, I got transferred to a busier station and had a very controversial call. Now, the call wasn't about the patient. The controversy wasn't about the patient. The controversy was my interaction with the fire department and what went down there. And if you ask about it, I'll talk about it. But right now, it's not exactly relevant to where I'm going. Well, I did that call, and immediately after the medical part was handled 100%, went to my supervisors, wrote 4 pages of what happened, sat down while they read it, knowing this could be a big, because we were a private ambulance service in partnership with the fire department, and I basically threw a firefighter off my truck, almost physically. I threatened him. I had to take control. It's a story. It's a story. But I knew it could hurt relations. I knew maybe I did the wrong thing. I was unsure of myself, so I wrote it. And I got to tell you, I can tell a story. And I have no problems telling the bad parts that I did. And I wrote 4, the box for the call is usually, 5, 6, 7 lines. And then I wrote 4 whole blank pages full of follow-up. And then I sat down with my supervisors. And they went and sat down. They immediately called whoever their equals were over at the fire department. And we got ahead of the problem. We started talking it out, started figuring things out. And they talked with the firefighter. And ultimately it came down from, other than the firefighter himself, I guess, ultimately it came down to I did the right thing. And everybody appreciated how honest I was in writing it up and I wasn't coming, again, I was refraining from coming at anger. This guy did this. No, I said, this is what happened. Here's my side of how I saw things. This is why I did what I did. A few months later, I go back to the slow station to sub in for somebody. And at that point, I heard, there had been a rumor about you. But here's the thing. Nobody believed the rumor. The rumor was that the fire department has hated me, that I was banned from the fire stations, that I couldn't work up there, those kind of things. And honestly, it was stupid rumors. It was so far out there. They're like, no, I think we would have absolutely heard that if that had happened for sure. But this one person who hated me was trying to start these rumors. Everybody laughed at her because they knew me. They said, that's not who he is. That's not how that works. However, the general public doesn't always give you that benefit. So I'm trying to think of an example there. There's just two levels of messing up. I'm going to wrap it up here. There's two levels of messing up. There's the private, we can handle it internally mess up, right? Where perhaps you're on a call. Okay, I did this one. I was on a call. The father who I'd worked with closely, he had previously worked with the DOT, so I'd worked with him on calls. He was our DOT representative for the area we worked in. Yeah, we had some arguments about shutting down roads and not shutting them down, but we had a great professional relationship. He was a good guy. We got called to his house. This is after he had retired. We got called to his house. He was gray. He was sweating. He was having a heart attack. And his wife was all upset, and his daughter was there, and his son was there. They were all upset because he was having a heart attack. His arm went numb. I think he had collapsed onto the floor for a moment. When I got to him, he was sitting in a chair, but he was gray. He was diaphoretic. He was bad. And I'm like, dude, I don't even want to mess with this. We got to go. And he absolutely hated the local hospital. Hated it. Would not go. And the whole time I'm trying to talk him into going, trying to help him out, trying to save his life, right? His daughter's blah, 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 being a redneck, busy person. She's a B word for sure. But just, you need to land a helicopter in our yard. You can land it for this. Blah, blah, blah. And I asked her to just be quiet. I tried professionally, said, look, I'm trying to help your father. Please stop. I finally said, shut the F up, get out. All of a sudden, now I'm the super bad guy. Because 3 times I had said, I need you to stop. I asked him, Mom, please get her out of here. I can't hear him. She's making it worse. I am literally trying to get him to go to the hospital. I am not leaving him here. I don't care if I have to knock him out and carry him over my shoulder. Because I told her that, look, dude, I have all day. I will sit here until that heart attack makes you unconscious, and then I will save your life and take you where you need to go. Or you can go get in the truck now. I mean, there was no leaving this guy. And he was a personal friend of mine. He was a patient who needed help. I was going to help him. But I can't do that with her going in the background. And the mom tried, and he even yelled at her once, which was bad for him, right? Nothing. And I'm trying to calm her down. And I finally told her to shut the F up and get out. Well, then it was on. Then it was, you need to get out of my house. You need to leave. And I said, all right, dude, here's the deal. We're leaving. You're coming with us. And I will take you to the hospital that's 45 minutes away because that's your thing. But you're going to have to sign this part of the release because I think you need to go to the hospital that's 3 minutes away so we can get you stabilized. I will stand there with you the whole time. They will stabilize you. I will supervise your medical care because he trusted me. So I said, I'll supervise. I can't supervise the doctor, but I'm trying to tell him stuff that makes him happy. I'll supervise your medical care, and we will take you to the other hospital as soon as I get you stabilized. Nope, not going to happen. If I don't go to this other hospital, I'm not going. Okay, fine, because I truly want to save your life. Please just sign this form. I got him in the truck. I said, you will have to sign the form at some point because what we're doing is bypassing good medical, life-saving medical care to take you further up the road. But I will do it because I want you to get your life saved. And he said, fine. And we got in the truck. We went. And his son was just up our ass. I'm sorry, Tom, but that's the truth. He was up our ass with his car. You're going lights and sirens. I mean, he was there. He was going to kill somebody. So at one safe spot, I had my partner pull over, turn off the siren for a second, kept the lights on. I jumped out. I was like, dude, you have to back off of this bumper. You're going to get somebody hurt, and you're jeopardizing your father's safety. You have to stop. And he basically told me to F off. And so I told my partner, shut off the light, shut off the siren. Because if he's going to ride our bumper, then I have to take the greater safety of the community into account. And I have to stop at every red light. And I have to make sure that I know that 2 cars can fit through a gap because he's going to run a stop sign. He's going to kill somebody. And we get to the hospital. I mean, he whips up and he comes into the ER spot, right? Only ambulance is allowed. He whips his car in, and he comes at me like he's going to beat my ass. I'm pulling his father out of the ambulance. And by the way, stabilized him. By the way, got some color back. By the way, helped prolong his life. And he come up like he was going to beat me senseless. And my paramedic partner, who was a good old boy, I was a paramedic as well, but my partner, who was a good old boy, or happened to be, I can't remember if he was on duty or not, but he was somebody in the community. He was a good old boy. Grabbed this guy and told him to stop. And security saw it and came out and basically told him to stop, told him to move his car. And then, of course, they wouldn't lay back. But I could hear him in the ER yelling that he was going to come back and whoop the paramedic's ass. Because I saved his daddy's life. Because I told him, you've got to stop. You're going to kill somebody. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if you do the right thing. So here's what happened after that. The kid dropped it. The kid let it go. The boy, the son, he wasn't going to beat my ass. And maybe I saw him a couple times later, and I was like twice as big as him. And I had no beef. I understand you're upset about your family, but you're an effing retard. If you think that during your daddy's heart attack that your anger has any place here. It has no place here. Your emotions won't save his life. Only I can. Medicine. Okay, let's put medicine. Emergency medicine can. The daughter, however, called my boss on the way to the hospital, called my boss, said I was refusing appropriate medical care because I wouldn't land a helicopter in her yard. And I told her to shut up, that I was rude to her, and this, and that, and the other. And just twisted this thing to where I just rampaged through the house and wasn't going to do crap for anybody. And they had to threaten to sue me to get me to do anything, which was out of my character, right? So my bosses, fortunately, I worked for some good people who went, okay, we've got your statement. If you want to write something down, that's fine. Here's what we wrote down over the phone. We will look into it. And, of course, they let me handle myself. I don't even know if it was that day that they contacted me or if it was later. But they did talk to me about it. Said, okay, what happened? I told them the story. And they kind of laughed at it a little bit. But they said, okay, well, you probably should. Because I admit it. After the third time, I went, shut the F up and get out. I mean, I yelled at her. I cussed at her. And I did. I made the situation worse. But they said, okay, well, you shouldn't cuss at people because practically it's going to make things worse. However, we believe your side of it. And that's the thing. The mother, the patient's wife, the mother of these kids, and they're adult kids. They can drive themselves. So they're older kids. She apologized on the side. I said, look, I understand. It's emotional. It's your daddy. It's your husband. I get it. I apologize for yelling at her, but I'm just trying to do my job. I like this guy. I've known this guy for a couple of years. I want him to be saved too. And she goes, no, I get it. I said, thank you. Well, ultimately, she wrote a letter on my behalf, essentially, to the company too. They didn't need it, but she did that. My point is, it doesn't matter to the public what you're trying to do, what the truth is, what you're actually doing. Your actions can lose you your job. I could have been fired because I admitted to swearing at the patient's family. I could have been fired because I took responsibility for my actions and admitted to stopping the ambulance and telling the kid to back off because it's a safety hazard. But because I left the patient care for 10 seconds, even though I could see him and I had the heart monitor and everything on him, I could have lost my job. Fortunately, I kept my job. But that's something you have to consider. Everything that you do, you have a freedom to do it. You have a freedom to say it. You have a freedom to put out there what you want to put out in the universe. People will see it. Some people will try to take you down just because they don't like the smile on your face. And you have zero right to a job. Even if your Facebook's private, even if your Twitter's private. The public, and they'll make up their own answers, but the public can always ask, what kind of care will this person give? What kind of protection will this police officer give? What kind of response will I get from the fire department from this person who says these things? Will this paramedic decide because my skin color is not what they like that they won't help me? And then they'll make up their answers, and then things can get worse. consider the effects. Words mean things. Everything you put out is out there. So I said there's two kinds of problems. There's the private that you can handle internally, and that was basically a private problem. It's me and the family, and they didn't go. I don't know if they went to the press, but there was no story. But it's me and the family. It was kept private essentially between me, family, and work. And work told them that I don't know exactly what they told them, but basically the family was satisfied that I had a talking to, a spanking or whatever. They did talk to me. They did agree with most of my actions. They did counsel me as an adult, as a mature human being to, hey, as much as you might want to say shut the F up, maybe you shouldn't do that because it'll just add fuel to the flames, right? Did it help? That's the question. In that situation, did it help? No. Did it make it worse? Yeah, it did make it worse. Well, I could have just taken him on and ignored everything and just dealt with him. So that was the counsel I got. It was wise counsel. Then there's the public mess ups. There's the public stuff that happens. And I don't actually know of any that I've dealt with personally in the companies I've worked with where something happened publicly. But let's make one up. I have a hard time doing it. But you yourself may have heard of a controversy. You yourself may have seen something. Now, here's one. I wasn't involved. But I saw my buddy, my friend Douglas, is a chief in the area that he lives in, a fire chief. And he's an EMT, and he's like the chief of the chiefs, but he's also the EMA director, I think, and whatever, GEMA, all that jazz. But he's definitely responsible for training and for oopses. And they'd been counseling a volunteer department on just driving safely. And then one day, this particular volunteer, I don't know who it was, but this particular volunteer firefighter was responding to a call, driving too fast, wrecked the fire truck. I mean, it's on its side, it's blocking the road sideways. Bad day. And I saw he had the news article in his house when I was over there, and I was like, "Oh man, that's a bad day." And I said, of course, as anybody would, what's the story there? And he told me the story. That's a public mess up. That's everybody, at least in your community, if not the world, right? Because it can scale up to where then the news is talking about you, depending on what happened. But you can't just handle that internally in a department. He didn't just run over a mailbox and you have to place Farmer Jones's mailbox and reprimand the firefighter. He wrecked the truck, blocked the road, was unable to respond to the call. I'm not sure what injuries there were. I don't know if anybody else was involved. I don't remember. But when it's public, that changes the game. When you mess up in public, the rules are wholly different, because now it's not just me counseling you on what you did and then talking with the person who reported it. It's now me having to, everybody's looking at the department now. The entire community who, with their tax money and possibly even with their fundraising money, supports what you do. Essentially, you work for them, and they're looking at you going, he just destroyed $1 million truck. What are you going to do about it? And, of course, everybody talks. And I don't know how the article was written. If it was this really was an accident, or if it was obvious that he was going too fast. And who knows what's in the article. But people make their own decisions. And people have decided he's a danger to our community. When it's public. Maybe he truly isn't. Maybe he just made one bad decision. Maybe with counseling, with training, with reprimands, whatever, that particular firefighter could become the best firefighter in that county. Now he doesn't have the ability to do anything. He lost everything because his mistake was in public. And that's something you have to consider with Facebook and Twitter, is when you go out there and you make your statements that are yours to make, it's in public. You might as well go to a town hall meeting and say these things officially in uniform in front of the community. You might as well go to the grocery store and get on the PA system and say these things, because Facebook and Twitter is public. And when you mess up publicly, when you do things that upsets the community, upsets the balance of the public safety's role in the community, You can lose your job. You can lose everything. And maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's incorrect. But it is a fact of life. And that's what I want you to consider today for the EMS Underground is when we take on this role, a lot of people understand the dangers of your life, right? Needle sticks, car accidents, possible suicides that aren't actually suicides that just want to hurt somebody, bombing attempts. We definitely have a danger to our physical lives. Maybe you even grasp the danger to our emotional and mental lives with dealing with stillbirths, dealing with a child in a car seat, but the people were just ignorant. They were meant well, but they were just ignorant, didn't know how to tie the car seat down. So the car seat bolted the kid through the windshield and killed the kid. I had that call. And that call rode with me for a very long time because the parents were so distraught because they put them in the car seat. They don't understand what happened. And they didn't have the education to lock the car seat into the car. So now it was a projectile. Maybe you grasp that. Maybe you grasp the dangers. And when you're in EMT school and when you're starting the new job or going to a new area, maybe you grasp, yeah, there's physical dangers. Yeah, there's emotional, mental dangers. But what I failed to learn, well, I learned it the hard way, I guess. What was never taught in school was the third danger is public opinion and politics. And when we willfully take on this role as protectors of the community, as people who come to help you, we then, with that, take on the scrutiny that comes with everybody wanting it to be done their way. We take on the politics of the commissioners, the county commissioners, of the heads of the hospitals, of the heads of the services that we work with, of the fill in the blank. We take on those politics and the way those things work and understand that we may become pawns in something we have nothing to do with and never signed on for. That is what you have to understand when you're entering this field, is that anything you say or do can be used against you in the court of public opinion. And it absolutely can take your job away, and there's nothing you can do about it. It absolutely can keep you from getting that promotion that you deserve. There's nothing you can do about it. Except be careful with what you say. Understand that you're under scrutiny. Just it, you are. And be willing to accept what comes with what you say. And then ultimately ask, did it help or did it hurt? Or I guess there is a neutral. There's a neutral that is, it has no meaning. Okay, fine. If it helps, great, say it. If it's neutral, all right, fine, whatever. It's a waste of energy or what. You felt like you had to say it, but didn't do anything one way or the other. But if it's going to be harmful, maybe you should just share it in your house or at the bar with people who are like-minded. Just saying. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode of EMS Underground. It's a little rambly, but I finally got to the point that I was searching for is there are those dangers, physical, emotional / mental, and then public opinion. And you have to understand all three. We do this every Thursday. I try to shoot for 2:30 p.m. This week I had to go early because I have some other things going on. Next week I'll be back at 2:30 p.m. right here on Georgia Institute of EMS on Facebook. Please hit the like button. Please hit the heart button. Please share this. If you want more information, check out the phone number. It's right here on the Facebook page. We have advanced EMT class just started. EMT class just started. The remodel is going very well with the building, so we're going to be adding a number of new classes coming up. Paramedic Refresher is coming up next Wednesday. Starts the Paramedic Refresher course, so definitely check out the information there on Georgia, Georgia spelled out, GeorgiaEMT.com. GeorgiaEMT.com. Everything's there. Contact information, email, all the different classes. We got ACLS Recert, we got ACLS New, PALS Recert, PALS New, and then basically pre-hospital CPR. So check all that stuff out. I'll be back next week. Get your questions in. Post it right here on Facebook. Georgia Institute of EMS on Facebook. And I'll tackle your questions. And Tom will be joining me, and you'll have two different sides of the opinions. And it's going to be fun. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I hope it helps you in your career.